What was it doing? It like glitches. I think it got hot. It's sitting up there in that camera stand and it's right in the sunlight and it gets hot in here. I got the air going right now. It's on 64 and it's blowing and it's still hot in here. Like all the air outside of the air blowing is hot and it makes it like it's hard to breathe sometimes. It gets so hot in here. I don't know if it's because there's so much stuff in here. It's insulated on the inside and so it holds heat better, or if it's just a black truck that attracts heat and it's hotter. I don't know. It's just super hot in here all the time. Whew. So I did not know this, but here in the United States, 19 of the United States actually allows undocumented immigrants to obtain driver's license in 19 of the states. I had actually found an article months ago that I stumbled upon this morning. A large portion of the increased accidents can be explained by risky driving behavior. Allowing undocumented immigrants to get driver's license increases speeding-involved crashes, which contribute to more than half of the increase in total crashes. I find it crazy that they even printed this because we all know Google hides stuff. I wanted to talk about this article on fatal crashes and driving behavior in illegal immigrants. This report is pretty astounding, but it goes to show that the reason we have policy and procedure is to, in fact, keep the citizens safe. Law and order is necessary. Y'all know I don't like the government. Y'all know I hate dealing with the police. Y'all know that half the time I don't like them and I'm literally fighting them. But I still at the same time understand the need for law and order, why we have laws on the books. It is to protect the citizens of this country. If we did not have the government or laws or law enforcement, the world would be 10 times worse off. So if you wanted to look at this report yourself, it's called The Impacts of Granting Undocumented Immigrants Driver's License on Fatal Crashes and Driving Behaviors. It was printed last March of 2024, and it came out of the University of California, Riverside, which I find crazy. This paper examines the effects of granting undocumented immigrants driver's license on fatal crashes using county-level crash data from the fatality and injury reporting system tool. I leveraged the blah, 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 blah. Hold on. My findings show that the granting of undocumented immigrants' driver's license increases the overall fatal crashes by nearly 5%. This is the equivalent to 0.46 more fatal crashes in a county per year. So it would raise the percentage of fatal crashes in all of the counties 5% every year by allowing undocumented immigrants to obtain driver's license, most of which, I think it goes without saying, most of which these people come here and they do not speak English. So my first question is how do they understand our traffic laws if they do not even have a baseline of our language? It's crazy. 5%. That's extremely high. The effect is stronger in states with a higher population of undocumented immigrants. By investigating the mechanism through which the policy impact is likely to occur, I show that nearly 60% of the increase is attributed to risk driving, implying that undocumented immigrants may be more likely to engage in risky driving behavior once they obtain a driver's license in the United States. The crazy thing is I've read a report on this years ago, and as it just so happens, people that come from South America and Mexico are much more dangerous on the roads. They did a study on this. Much more dangerous on the roads. The study that they did showed that they were more likely to create riskier driving situations on the road. They drove faster, they broke more laws, they were not wearing seat belts. There's been a study on this, you know. They're maniacs. No, I've never drove in Tijuana. Tijuana? Listen, listen to this, I did take a shuttle bus from Cancun Airport into the city of Cancun, and I was on this shuttle bus, you guys. It was one of those like buses that had the little curtains, you know. It looks like a van that they would shuffle old people around to. And they were driving like a freaking maniac through Cancun. This guy had to have been going almost 100 miles an hour. He was all over the damn roads. He wasn't using no turn signal. I don't even think he had on a seatbelt. And I am in the back of this van just praying that I make it to the resort. They do things differently in Mexico. I've experienced the driving myself. I was terrified, and I did not think that I was going to make it. And then, because of the ride to the Hilton in this rickety bus, and the bus driver driving like a maniac, because of that, after my stay at the resort, and I was about to take a flight back to the States, I remember I had to drink a double shot and a pina colada to even prep myself to get back on that shuttle bus to get to the airport so I could get home. Because I already knew from the ride there that the ride back was going to be just as bad. They do not care. They don't care. That bus was packed, and the man that was driving it had complete disregard for everybody's life on that shuttle bus. It was crazy. So I believe you. I believe you. I've had my own experiences with Mexico traffic laws. I don't know what to call it. It's crazy. But they've done studies in the past, and it showed that specifically Mexico, they participate in riskier behaviors on the road. And we know in recent years that mass immigration, illegal immigration, has led to casualties. There was a child that was killed on a bus. He was hit by an illegal Haitian immigrant. Apparently, allegedly, after he killed this kid, it was realized that not only did he not have a driver's license, nor did he have insurance, but he wasn't supposed to be on the road. The car was illegal. He didn't have a license. He's illegal. He's undocumented. And then there's no insurance on the car. And this led to a child being killed in Springfield, Ohio. Not only that, there was a grandmother that was checking her mail, and she was mowed down by an illegal immigrant also. No insurance, no driver's license, illegal car. And if I'm not mistaken, he was actually allowed to leave the scene of the crash after they sent EMS to try to save this poor woman's life, and she died. And the cops let this guy go. If your insurance has went up and you live in a blue state, this is why. There's been so many of these accidents. It's affecting the insurance prices. It's causing bad drivers getting in multiple accidents throughout the year, is causing good drivers' insurance to go up. It's crazy. So this article is through the SSRN. The impacts of granting undocumented immigrants driver's license on fatal crashes and driving behaviors. Drunk driving poses a serious hazard to Americans. In 2019, more than 10,000 people were killed in alcohol-impaired driving accidents, meaning that drunk driving was responsible for almost 28% of all traffic deaths. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that in 2019, the absolute number of alcohol-related driving deaths was the highest in Texas, California, and Florida. The three largest states with the largest populations, including large illegal immigration populations. The absolute number of drunk driving deaths is large in large states that also have large illegal immigration populations is important for this analysis. Unimportant for this analysis. What is important is that if illegal immigrants are more likely to be drunk drivers, and they've already done a study on this, and yes, specifically Mexico. There is a culture of drinking and driving there, and so they come here and they drink and drive here. They've done multiple studies on this, and they see no problem with this behavior. So, let's see here. So, South Carolina, Montana, and Wyoming had the highest rate of drunk driving deaths. Those three states have a low illegal immigrant population, equal to 0.5% to 1.1% and 1.8% of their respective populations, well below the national average of 3.5%. Damn. That's not good, folks. One of the few studies of impaired driving among illegal immigrants surveyed 467 recent Hispanic immigrants to Miami-Dade County, Florida. One of those 467 respondents, 67 out of those respondents, out of those 467 respondents, 67 were illegal immigrants. The study found that the illegal immigrants drank more than legal immigrants and are less knowledgeable about DUI and DWI laws, but that they are much less likely to be involved in DWIs and DUIs because the desire to avoid interactions with law enforcement officers. Lord, sorry, this is difficult. Another study focusing on DUI and DWI traffic stops near the U.S.-Mexico border found that binge drinking is more common along the border, but that DUIs and DWIs are not more common in border counties. I'm going to tell you right now, in counties where there is a culture of drinking and everybody's drinking, the cops, they know that people are drinking. And they let it slide more. They do. Places like Jacksonville, Florida, I'd be willing to bet on a good Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. over half the city is fucking sloshed driving down the road, and they do nothing about it. So in cities where there's a huge culture for drinking, the cops are aware that people are drinking and they let that shit slide more. So if there is binge drinking going on the Mexico border, the U.S.-Mexico border, then the cops are going to know that these people are drinking more, and they're going to be letting it slide more, in my opinion. In March of 2023, Minnesota became the 19th state to allow undocumented migrants to obtain driver's license. Proponents of these new laws in Minnesota and everywhere else have long reasoned that giving driving privileges to undocumented migrants would improve public safety. Having a driver's license does not decrease the likelihood that an undocumented migrant would get into a car accident. However, driving licenses are a prerequisite for insurance. Prerequisite? There you go. However, it does not reduce the share of fatalities that are related to hit and runs by 20 to more than 50%, depending on the estimation. This finding supports the theory that extending driving privileges to undocumented migrants makes the situation worse. Undocumented immigrants creates a public safety threat as driver's licenses can be used fraudulently as identity for documents. This is crazy. Hold on one second. I'm not even seeing the little boy that died in Ohio. There it is. Yes, he was an 11-year-old boy that was killed in Ohio when an illegal immigrant minivan crashed into a school bus. He was thrown from the bus after the minivan driver, who was Haitian, veered into oncoming traffic and hit the bus. Yes, December of 23, or was that 24? It would have been 23. There was a grandmother named Kathy Heaton who was killed by a Haitian immigrant driving with no license. When undocumented immigrants feel more secure and no longer feel getting caught or deported, they are likely to engage in risky behavior. Both moral hazard and the Peltzman effect predict that the DLR would increase the number of fatal crashes. Let's look at one of these reports. Oh. There's all these lawyers. Were you hit by someone illegal? That's crazy. I can't find nothing. There should be a report. There's not. This is my job. Thanks for supporting my channel. Bye. Bye. Some of y'all gonna end up in prison one day. Why don't you come say it to my face? I'm sitting at the McDonald's in Madison. I'm sitting right here. Come say it to my face. McDonald's in Madison, North Carolina, 27025. Come say it to my face. Black Chevrolet with an American flag on the back. Come say it to my face. Dangerous behavior by illegal immigrants could put Americans at risk of death or seriously bodily injury and should therefore affect the allocation of immigration enforcement resources. Yeah. The danger posed by illegal immigrant drunk drivers is a frequent justification for increasing in interior immigration enforcement. Former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Thomas Homan went so far as to label driving under the influence and driving while intoxicated offenses committed by illegal immigrants as a public safety threat. Indeed, law enforcement officials and immigration authorities alike continue to claim that illegal immigrants are significant DWI and DWI offenders, DUI and DWI offenders. And studies concur with that. So, occasional tragic crimes such as the 2010 DUI related felony murder of, Lord have mercy. Why do they, who gives their child Benedictin Nunn's sister Denise Moser and the 2018 death of Indianapolis Colts linebacker Edwin Jackson, both of whom were killed in car accidents caused by illegal immigrant drunk drivers? Meanwhile, the Biden administration has deprioritized deportations of illegal immigrants who are convicted of DUIs and DWI offenses. But neither of the occasional deaths caused by drunk driving illegal immigrants nor statements by law enforcement officials show that illegal immigrants contribute to drunk driving deaths. Well, you just said that they did. Stop contradicting yourself. Make up your mind. Drunk driving poses a serious hazard to Americans. In 2019, more than 10,000 people were killed in alcohol-impaired driving accidents, meaning that drunk drivers were responsible for almost 28% of all traffic deaths. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration estimates that in 2019, the absolute number of alcohol-related driving deaths was the highest in Texas, California, and Florida. These three states with the largest populations, including the largest illegal immigrant populations. There's no coincidences. Lower illegal immigrant drunk driving rates are especially surprising compared to the general finding that Hispanics in the United States generally have higher rates of DUI and DWIs, which is a crime usually committed by poor people with low levels of education. Illegal immigrants are mostly Hispanic and they tend to be poor and less well educated than other Hispanics or the population at large. So their lower likelihood of drunk driving is a likely result of greater deterrence. Illegal immigrants face severe legal penalties from interactions with police officers, including deportation. Well, they're here legally. That'd be like me robbing a bank and I'm like, don't arrest me, and they just turn around and walk away. I think some of these people's expectations are too high. I don't think they're clicking on all cylinders, honey. Firing on all cylinders. Oh God, here we go. Numbers. not telling me anything. Culture. Drinking plays a significant role in Mexican culture, with tequila and something else being national staples and enjoyed in various contexts, from celebrations to everyday gatherings. While alcohol consumption is very common, blah, 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 there's growing awareness for responsible drinking and the dangers of alcohol abuse. I'm hungry. Hey, y'all. Countries. Where's the United States? Worldwide consumption of alcohol in 2019 was equal to 5.5 liters of pure alcohol consumed per person aged 15 years or older. Jesus Christ. This is a decrease from 5.7 liters in 2010. The regions with the highest consumption are the WHO European region at 9.2 liters per person, and the region of America is 7.5 liters. And Mexico is 6.5 liters, so they drink a little bit less there than the Americans. It says on this chart, this is through list of countries by alcohol consumption per capita. Interesting stuff. I think the lack of skill, risk, hold on one second. I think the lack of skill on the road This is an old article from 2023. Taking risk, hoping for change, a day in the life of an undocumented driver. With Democrats in control of the legislature, advocates believe that the driver's license for all bill has a better chance of becoming law in 2023. The bill would grant licenses to undocumented Minnesotans. And they did. They ended up passing this. 19 states you can obtain a driver's license. And it's crazy. There's an estimated 81,000 undocumented immigrants in Minnesota. 94% are over the legal driving age. How scary. How scary. So they did a huge Texas operation, a sting in Texas this week, today, June 11th. Yes. 109 children rescued, and there was over 244 perverts arrested in the Operation Soteriera Shield, exposing widespread child exploitation in North Texas. Authorities called it a successful roundup of child sex offenders, but it also shows how widespread the problem is in North Texas. The Dallas FBI office and some of the 70 law enforcement agencies that participated announced the results of Operation Shield on Tuesday. And it's Soteria, I can't say it. These are the faces of the 244 men and women charged with exploiting children for the purpose of sex trafficking or pornography. I'm trying to click on it. It won't let me zoom in. It's at the end of a month-long investigation by federal and local enforcement of a crime that authorities say is a year-round problem. Quote, the number of offenders arrested and the children rescued in this operation are stunning. It's stunning to hear them. It's stunning to see them here. So this operation it kicked off, the investigation started in April of this year, and it led to the rescue of over 109 children, most of which these children had not even been reported missing. I think that's the most concerning part. Who's the parents? Because they need to be in jail. I heard a sheriff talk about this, and they talked about how these children were not even new to be missing. It's crazy. During this operation, many of the children recognized or rescued were previously unidentified. They didn't even have a clue that these children were wrapped up in this horrible evil and that they were being victimized. These children were unidentified. They were not reported missing. There was no BOLO out for these children. These children were unknown of, and I think that that's the scariest thing. And we currently have 350,000 missing children on U.S. soil that is tied to children that came over the U.S.-Mexican border. And I understand that we all agree that these people need to be deported, but the children are our responsibility. It's the right thing to do to find these children and to get them back to Mexico or back to family members. I don't care that they're from South America. I don't care if they're from China. I don't care if they're from Russia. They're innocent children that were used as pawns and sent over that border by their parents. Adults, absolutely deport them. The children, once we find them, absolutely send them back to where they need to be and they can be best taken care of. But until then, we need to find these damn children, because it pisses me off every day that there's 350,000 missing freaking children in this country and that they've probably been sex trafficked, and a good portion of them, at least 1 out of 4, is probably already dead. It's not their fault. They're innocent. The fact that they're missing is disgusting. During this operation, most of these children were previously unidentified. They had never even been reported missing. They had never had their abuse known to authorities. 109 children. Do you know, just imagine for a minute how many school buses it would take to transport them to a CPS center to talk to them. I mean, this is a massive operation. And then 244 pedophiles. The operation not only led to arrest and rescue, but also to the seizure of terabytes of child abuse sexual material through a collaborative effort that started 10 years ago and now includes 70 Texas law enforcement agencies. This is crazy. What started with a small team with a bold idea has grown into something very powerful, said the County District Attorney Greg Willis. In a lot of these cases, authorities said that the sex offenders never actually meet their victims face to face, but use technology to coerce them into sending explicit material and videos. We've been talking about this a lot. There's a lot of predators that are on Roblox and all of these games, Xboxes, and this is how they're getting to children. The head of the Dallas FBI office said the methods used don't just involve social media, but also online gaming systems. So we were learning a little bit about this the other day. What'll happen is a predator will make contact with a child through the Xbox, saying they're playing a game together, and then this predator will coerce the young child into the child taking pictures that are sexually explicit of themselves and then sending them to the predator, and then the predator, this becomes a vicious cycle. At this point, the child is locked in and the shame is built, and so the child feels obligated and pressured to send these pictures to this person because the person is threatening to either harm the child, harm the child's family, or use this explicit material against the child. And the predator will use these pictures as blackmail to get more pictures out of the child, and it becomes a vicious cycle of a child sending pictures to a predator, videos, and then that predator is also taking those videos and they're spreading them all over line. They're sharing them with online there's tons of predator sites where these weirdos go and link up and chat, online chat forums and stuff, and they share it with other predators. This has become a huge problem in recent years, and it will continue to be a huge problem because technology is front and center. Instant gratification is front and center, and every child has a PlayStation or an Xbox or a cell phone at the very least. It's dangerous. We need to get laws on the books and pass legislation to protect these children because they are innocent and they know not what they do. And every parent has that my kid would never, until they go missing. This is dangerous. Gaming systems is one of the main ways that they're getting access to children now. Authorities urge families to use parental controls on any devices that kids use and be aware that there are more faces like these still out here. There's probably millions. There's probably millions of pedophiles on the street. Predators online. I would be willing to bet there's millions. I wish I could see all these faces. Hold on one second. I wonder if some of those 109 children that they contacted with here in Texas and they rescued, I wonder if some of them came over the border because they said that they were unidentified and never, reported missing. I'm wondering if some of the, I hope that the majority of these children are part of the 350,000 that we already have missing in this country that come over the border and that was lost during the Biden administration. And statistically speaking, more than likely trafficked. We know that they were placed in homes with what they consider like a guardian ad litem. It's like a temporary foster placement. It's like, we know that these children were put with people. Well, as it just so happens, a lot of these people that these children were placed with went missing. We've never been able to contact them. The Department of Children and Children's Services placed these undocumented children what they considered stable homes, and then the people that were running these stable homes, they disappeared with the children. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. No excuses for this. I think that's great that Texas did that. I've been seeing a lot of states that are doing these raids. So there was a report released by RFK Jr. like last month that I completely missed. I'd taken a screenshot and I forgot to talk to y'all about it. And it was about the chronic diseases that are on the rise in children because of food. They're saying the chronic disease crisis in children is described in the report as growing rates of a number of issues, including childhood obesity, diabetes, autism, ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, cancer, and allergies and autoimmune disorders. More than 40% of American children now have at least one chronic health condition. Since the 1970s, rates of childhood cancer have soared, in many cases by nearly 50%. In the 1960s, less than 5% of children were obese. Now over 20% are obese. Think of this one, this is the one that gets me every time, and it just seems to be getting worse. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. Today, it's 1 in 31 children. So a few decades ago, 1 out of every 10,000 people had autism. And today, it's 1 out of every 31 people. It's got to be the food. In my opinion, it's the food. I've been saying that for a minute. In my opinion, it's the food, it's the medications. We all know that the COVID vaccine has a high risk of heart problems. We all know that hormonal birth control causes allegedly infertility. Look at all the mental health meds. I mean, 1 out of every 4 or 5 Americans are on mental health drugs. I think it's the food and I think it's the drugs, and that's just my opinion, and I'm allowed to have that opinion. Medical experts attribute much of the increase in autism to better and more widespread testing and diagnostics. I don't know about that, boss. But you'll lie, I'll let you tell it. I'll let you tell it. Multiple current and former federal health officials criticized the report that RFK dropped, which they said misrepresented several facts and left out other well-known drivers of childhood chronic disease. Listen, it's the food, man. Okay? You are what you eat. The amount of children that I see out here that are morbidly obese. I saw one kid that was less than 8 years old, and he was twice my size. And he literally, y'all, he looked like Chris Farley in an 8-year-old little body. That is child abuse. I don't care what anybody says. That is child abuse. You are setting your child up for a life of poor behavioral patterns through food, which leads to obesity, which leads to chronic health problems, which leads to death. It's abuse, and I will always have that stance that overfeeding a child the wrong things is abuse. I see it all the time. It's heartbreaking. And you know where I saw this little boy? At the beach, homie. His mama was yelling at him to hurry the hell up because he was dragging behind her. You know, she was on the move. And she was like, will you come on? Girl. He could come on if you didn't feed him damn 15 cheeseburgers a day. How dare you berate him in public when you done made him get that, allowed him to get that big. The poor kid could barely breathe. It's hot as heck out there. He was shirtless, and they were coming off the beach, and his mama's screaming at him to hurry up. Girl, he physically can't. It made me, it's one of them times I had to real hard, because the fighter in me wanted to say, ma'am, are you unaware that his condition makes him a little slower because he physically cannot? Because you didn't know how to say no. Or no, and the kicker was she was also like 400 pounds. So when you see this, you understand the family dynamics. Mama sits at home doing this, and now the son's sitting at home doing this, and it is setting a child up for failure, absolute failure. The wide-ranging report is organized around 4 topics that describe as the, quote, potential drivers behind the rise in childhood chronic disease that presents the clearest opportunities for progress. Number one, the number one reason that these problems are arising is because of poor diet, driven primarily by ultra-processed foods. So, of course, most of society is going to revolt against what RFK's recommendation and what he said, because they don't want to hear that they're not supposed to be eating processed food. People cannot take accountability at all. And it's wild because I come on here and take more accountability than any person I've ever met, but yet people say I don't. So it's crazy that people do not want to hear what's good for them because it makes them feel some type of way about the life that they're living. They're willing to kill their children just to continue with their bad lifestyle. The number 2 reason was a cumulative exposure to chemicals like food additives and pesticides. So this report from RFK and the Department of Health and Human Services determined that these pesticides, food additives, are not good. The chemicals that are in the food, the stuff that's being sprayed on the food, it's not good, and it can cause a lot of the issues that we're seeing in early childhood development with children currently. Number 3, lack of physical activity, and chronic stress. These children are not moving and they're stressed out more than ever before. It's sad. This economy is not only affecting adults, but your children can feel your energy and they know when you're stressed, and it's taken, and I'm not saying you personally, but y'all get what I'm saying. A lack of physical activity and chronic stress. There's no reason that a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, or a 15-year-old should be under extreme amounts of stress, but the report showed that they are. It's sad. The lack of physical activity is actually going to lead to higher stress levels, because physical activity keeps the is it cortisol? Is that the stress hormone? Y'all know which one it is. It's one of them big words that I can't say. On the periodic table of elements. I'm joking. I don't know what's on the periodic table of elements. Chromium? Listen. Stress. Cortisol. That's what it is. Is that what it is? Stress hormone. The lack of physical activity leads to higher levels of cortisol in the brain and body. And so physical activity is a good way to disperse stress. If these kids are not being physically active, if they're not climbing trees, if they're at home on the Xbox, stuck in their dark room with the curtain shut, y'all know how they like it. They want it dark as hell. So if they're doing that, they're not getting sunlight, which is vitamin D. They're not getting dopamine. They're not getting all of the happy chemicals to the brain. Their cortisol is spiking. And then they're not getting any physical activity, which would aid in the cortisol and all of the happy chemicals. They're just isolated. They're isolated and consumed by technology. And that's why these problems are getting worse. 100%. I trust RFK. I like RFK. I didn't like him because he was a Democrat, but he's come to the right light, you know. The number 4 leading cause of chronic, these problems getting worse in children, the chronic illnesses in children, chronic diseases in children. The number 4, this report said that the number 4 reason was over medicalization, with too many prescriptions and too many vaccines. I believe this report. I trust RFK. He's been literally out here fighting for children and people to care about themselves and care about their families, and to take their health into their own hands. He's an anti-vaxxer. You know, people don't want to hear this though. That's why they would revolt against this report. And I get that, but this is becoming a problem. I see children out here all the time. I saw a little boy in Bojangles the other day with what appeared to be his grandma. It's sad. It's sad. It's not right. And I think that parents and grandparents should know that those bad eating habits are going to follow them into adulthood, and when it does, it's going to cause them chronic health issues, which is going to lead to death. And I think introducing new food, trying new things, thinking outside the box, and I think that diet needs to shift in this country, specifically for early childhood development, because the diet that we have implemented, even in the education system, is complete trash. These kids are not fed stuff for their bodies to function and their minds to function on the level that they need to be for school. Studies show that children that go to school hungry in the mornings score lower scores than children who are fed a significant healthy breakfast before school. Children who eat breakfast before school actually have better grades and score higher on their assignments. And so they're, in order to get the best outcome for early childhood development, diet is essential for children. It really is. And unfortunately, the culture that has been built in America is not centered around what's best for the child. It's what's most convenient for the parent. And I get that. I don't have children, so you know what I mean? So I get that you're on the go. I get it. I fed my daughter Happy Meals too. But I think that talking about these things, we can start to focus on how we can make better changes to better help the children. Food and diet is so important, and I think the longer that I focus on my own diet, the more I realize how the food that I was eating and the alcohol that I used to consume, how much it was affecting my mental health. I feel so much better now eating a whole food diet, or as close as possible, I feel so much better. About the worst thing I eat is those oodles and noodles, you know? Everything else is chicken, beef, vegetables. You know, I had sweet potato last night and a salad. So, I try to keep it as whole food, and I feel so much better when I eat like that. I literally am just so much more focused and clearer headed. And I know that if it affects me as an adult and I crumble and spiral when I eat a bunch of processed food, I can go eat a half a dozen Dunkin' Donuts today, and then tomorrow I will be a spiraling mess. I'm not even joking. If it affects me like that, then I know that it has to affect some children worse than it does me, because I'm an adult who is more capable of being in control of their emotions. Ha ha ha, joke's on me. But you see what I'm saying? Like, children, they don't know why this is happening. You know, they don't know why they feel like crap. They don't know why they're sleepy. They don't know why they can't pay attention. So it has to, in my opinion, it would take a bigger toll on them because they don't understand the concept of why they're feeling like that. Me as an adult, when I eat half a damn box of Krispy Kreme, I know that I'm going to be depressed tomorrow. I just expect it. I would say that it affects children more than it would adults. And we really need to change the diet up in this country. Seeing these children roll around, it's sad. It's almost like, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. Talk to any person who weighed 300 pounds as a freshman in high school, and they'll tell you, anybody that's been on a weight loss journey, they'll say, yeah, my family had a hand in my eating habits. I grew up eating everything my mama cooked, grew up eating everything my grandma cooked. There was always food, and they always wanted me to eat more. And they will tell you that they carried those bad eating patterns into their adult life, which led them down a dark road. There's one guy that I follow on here. I think it's called like Dad Bod or something. I don't know. And he's lost like 300 pounds. You don't get to be 600 pounds at 25 years old from eating a healthy lifestyle for your whole life. That comes from years of poor eating habits and years of depression and years of anxiety and years of mental health problems falling into dietary problems. They go hand in hand. A lot of people use food as a way to cope. I used to do that, specifically through my hangovers. I used food to get me through my hangovers when I was a borderline alcoholic 5-6 years ago. Like, they use it to cope. I remember how excited I used to get when the DoorDash would get to my house in Charlotte, and I'd just be so happy. And then I'd sit down and smash, and then I'd feel disgusting. There's so much psychology behind diets and eating habits. And also, trauma is a huge trigger for these eating habits, whether it's bulimia, whether it's, eating too much food, stress eating. Y'all know that I do the opposite of stress eating. When I'm under stress, I can't eat at all. There's so many mental health disorders, and I think it is my belief that the food and diet causes these mental health disorders to be worse. Like, say somebody that's bipolar and all they eat is fast food and they're never leaving the house and they're keeping themselves isolated because of their bipolar disorder. Those problems are just going to spiral and get worse. The diet has a huge part in how the brain functions. Our dopamine, 50% of which is actually created in the gut. If you're stopping that gut up with nothing but processed food, your gut's not getting the vitamins, minerals, aminos that it needs to properly function to create that dopamine. So these things are backed by science. These mental health disorders get worse with processed food. Children's behavioral problems get worse with processed food and dyes. They've been poisoning us for years. They've been poisoning us for years. The FDA, all of these, the USDA, all of these people that were in control of making sure that our food was safe, created a system of food that made us sicker, then making us need big farm medication so that they can make more money off of us. It's crazy. They want us all on drugs for everything. They want us to be on something for high blood pressure, something for diabetes, something for our mental health problems. They want us to all be on prescription drugs, in my opinion. In my opinion. Yeah, that's another thing. a half a box. I think I could kill a half a box. And I thought I'd read somewhere else that was worse than 40%. How many children in the United States are obese? What percentage? I had read 60%, but that might have been adults. Oops. Obese. 14.7 million children. So the prevalence of obesity varies by age group. 2 to 5 year olds. Listen to this. This is crazy. 2 to 5 year olds. Like they just come off formula. 12.7% of 2 to 5 year olds are obese. 6 to 11 year olds, 20.7% are obese. It's like 1 out of 4, homie. 1 out of 5. 12 to 19 year olds, 22.2% are obese. Now these numbers are from 2020. So 5 years ago. You can best believe that it's probably higher than that by now. Here's another report that came out in 23 that said 2 out of 5 children are obese. Not overweight, that's different. Overweight is one category, obese is the next category. Overweight is just a few extra pounds. Obese would be like it's a serious health concern. They're so big, it's a concern. So it's a little different than being overweight. Two out of 5 children in the U.S. are obese, with this number rising yearly. Well, that doesn't fit the last statistics we read from Google. As I said, I don't trust them. It's probably higher. It sucks because there's really not a lot of places that you can get good food anymore that's actually healthy. Everywhere sells processed, fatty, crappy crap. I'd be surprised if it was only 5%. That seems kind of high. I thought it'd be like 1% real beef. Like for real, McDonald's is disgusting. Yeah, it's kind of sad, but it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. So I saw an article before I jumped back on with you guys, and it said I saw the Major General Scott Shearman, who is head of the U.S. Army National Guard. He did a press conference about 30 minutes to an hour ago, and he said that the U.S. military in Los Angeles can temporarily detain protesters. Now, he is the commander, and he has gotten the clear to arrest people if necessary. So it sounds like they're going to start arresting people. Detain. They're going to detain the protesters out there. These people are losing it. Y'all, I'm kind of hungry. I don't know what I want. I guess I'm going to have to go cook something. I don't really want to, but I need to. I guess I can eat beef jerky for now. You want a bite? It's Dr. Pepper flavored. I like these. Dollar Tree. They got them at Walmart too, but they're like $3, I think. I need to eat. What's going on in the Karen Reed trial? Karen Reed trial. 17 hours ago, final defense. So if you don't know who Karen Reed is, she was accused of running over and murdering her boyfriend on a snowy night after a night out partying with friends. They said that she backed into him and killed him in the snow at one of his old partner's houses. John O'Keefe was a law enforcement officer, and he had another buddy named Brian who was a law enforcement officer, and they were all supposed to be going over to Brian's house to drink. The next morning, Karen, after dropping John O'Keefe off in the snow, she tries to get in touch with her boyfriend John, and she can't get him on the phone. So she drives over to Brian's house where she had dropped John off, and she finds him dead in the snow. Upon investigators arriving to the scene, Karen Reed was actually at the scene making horrible statements. She said, quote, "Oh my God, I hit him. Oh my God, I hit him." Prosecutors allege that Reed, after a night out drinking, rammed O'Keefe in reverse with her Lexus and left him to die outside at a house party during a blizzard on January 29th of 22. So it looks like they were closing up the trial. This is her second trial. The first one ended in, I do believe, a mistrial. Because of the fact that John O'Keefe and this guy Brian are both law enforcement officers, this case has been muddy. John O'Keefe's body also had what appeared to be dog marks of some sort. And it's crazy because Brian owned a German Shepherd. And after John O'Keefe's body was found dead in the snow, and a medical examiner for Karen Reed said that they were dog marks, dog bites, or scratches, Brian got rid of this dog immediately. So weird. A crash expert testified that a 15-mile collision between a crash dummy's head and a taillight like Reed's wouldn't have resulted in a skull fracture. As I said, John O'Keefe's body, the injuries are not consistent with Karen Reed backing over him. His body is consistent with a beating. Another defense witness, Dr. Marie Russell, in the opinion that scratches and cuts on O'Keefe's arm were not caused by the impact with the tail light. The defense theory is that they were inflicted by a dog bite. Listen, evidence is evidence. But because the evidence is in her benefit, they're going to try to discredit it. I hope they acquit her. That's my hope. And why was Brian never called to the stand? Yesterday, she announced that she was not going to testify in her defense. Earlier Tuesday, another defense expert testified that John O'Keefe did not hit the back of his head, and he suffered fatal injuries on the lawn where Reed found him the morning after prosecutors alleged that she clipped him with her Lexus and left him to die in a blizzard. One key piece of information is that after John O'Keefe was laying semi-dead in the snow, somebody on the inside of the house, somebody inside of Brian's house Googled, searched, how long will it take a body to die from hypothermia in the snow? It's crazy. Somebody on the inside of that house, in my opinion, murdered him. 100%. You'd have to be an idiot not to see it. Those dog bites, scratches are consistent with an argument and a fight. The fact that his eyes were black, that he had all of these other wounds. Now, the black eyes would have came from the blunt force trauma to the head. It's called raccoon eyes. But still and yet, it's very clear by the state of John's body, it appears that he was in a physical altercation. A car running over his body, he would have injuries to the lower half of his body. He would not have the dog scratches, the dog bark, bites, what appears to be. And he also had hair all over his body. There was also dog hair all over him too. It's crazy. It's not, the injuries on John O'Keefe's body are not consistent with a car accident. Plain and simple. His legs would be broke, and God knows what else. And probably one whole side of him would be completely bruised with broken bones. That's not what we have. Most of his injuries were to the top half of his body. So it's crazy that they've even proceeded with this, because the evidence does not match the prosecution's case. It actually contradicts each other, which is crazy. It's like, tell me you ain't been a prosecutor without telling me you ain't never been a prosecutor. Who is the prosecutor? Let's take a gander. Prosecutor. Hank Brennan. Hank Brennan. Oh no. Hank. So he's an attorney, well, a prosecutor out of Boston. Ugh. He looks so evil. Hold on one second. So he's been doing this for a little while. He was a former prosecutor in Essex and Suffolk counties who served as the co-lead counsel in the South Boston murder trial of a reputed mobster, James Whitty Burglar. Listen. Reed's first trial in Norfolk Superior Court ended in a mistrial on July 1st. Brennan is a highly respected and skilled former prosecutor and a longtime defense attorney with over 25 years of experience in state and federal courts, and has the expertise handling complex law enforcement matters. In my opinion, the longer they're in this shit, the more corrupt behavior they're able to implement through power, time in their position and power. When I see prosecutors and judges that have been on the damn bench for 20, 30, 40 years, all that tells me is that they are career crook. He was a bar band musician before he became a prosecutor. Hank Brennan was a Boston bar band musician before he got his law degree. And he only got that so he could represent himself as an artist. Now he's prosecuting Karen Reed and one of the best prosecutors in the state. How crazy. He's making $250 an hour. He will be paid up to $75,000 for prosecuting Karen Reed. Per his contract, he's only making $250 an hour, and it maxes out at $75,000 until June 30. This is extremely low for a case like this, especially for an attorney of his caliber. He owes Michael Morsi a favor. Who's Michael Morsi? Hold up, wait a minute. He owes Michael Morsi a favor, or Morsi has something on him. This makes the most sense to me. Whitty Burglar was a government informant. That was that mobster that he was a part of prosecuting. Hold on. Whitty Burglar, it's B-U-L-G-E-R, was a government informant, and I'm sure Morsi knows where all the bodies are that he buried, literally and figuratively. Maybe Brennan is doing this to further protect his client and the family. Some have even suggested that Burglar is bankrolling Brennan. Brennan is the lead prosecutor in the Karen Reed trial. I could definitely see this being a case in the future. He wants Morsi in his back pocket for future use. Morsi owes him big time for this. Also, some have suggested maybe Brennan wants to run for district attorney. He's already been a prosecutor. Why go back when you're making the big bucks as a defense lawyer? In addition, so the question is why did this high profile, respected attorney even take this gig as a prosecutor for this case? Because it's not even logical because of where he's at in his career. So that's the discussion. In addition to wondering why he agreed to do it, I wonder how much he was told or what he knew about the case prior to taking the Karen Reed case. As he admitted during the hearing, he is still assessing the case and hasn't watched the entire trial. His contract started September 10th for a trial that wasn't set to begin until January, but 2 months after being appointed, he is still assessing the case. I wonder if he was misled into believing that they had all of this evidence that they needed for a conviction, and he just thought he would only need to package it and present it with a little more flair, seeing as how Lally is such a big dud. However, once he started digging into the evidence, he realized the evidence wasn't there. This is all speculation. This is conspiracy theory. Because if it were, he wouldn't waste precious time on fishing expeditions he's attempting to go on, requesting Bill Reed's phone records a month before John O'Keefe's death, and the outtakes of Karen Reed's interview with Ted Daniel and Dateline. Does he really think that's where they'll find the smoking gun? More importantly, shouldn't they have already had the smoking gun? I'm just all around perplexed at all of this. What do you say? Whoa. So apparently there's some history in this county with all of their prosecutors, attorneys, judges, cops. And we know that John O'Keefe was a cop, and so was Brian. As I said, it's messy. It's extremely messy, extremely unprofessional. There's so many conflicts of interest. I don't even know how this is still going on. It's crazy. Somebody said, I think it's as simple as he is a mob attorney and Morsi is in with the mob. Blackmail, earning a favor for a favor owned. Oh, here we go. Allegedly, Brennan, the lead prosecutor on the Karen Reed case, allegedly, he has a gambling addiction and owes over $750,000 to a loan shark. So he took the case to get him them off his back. Morrissey covered up the crime for Brennan, and Morrissey is now calling in his favor. That's it. Loan shark or blackmail. I can't think of a logical reason that he wouldn't take it. I don't know if none of this is true, but I wouldn't doubt it. Huh. Doesn't make sense. So weird. The whole case, I wonder what's going to happen. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if she's convicted. That's for damn sure. I done been convicted twice of things I didn't do, so it wouldn't surprise me if she's convicted. Given all of the evidence, there's nothing to indicate that she ran him over. Her statements is the worst piece of evidence, and she was in shock. She was questioning herself. She was saying, oh my God, I hit him. She was actually saying, oh my God, did I do this? Was it me that ran him over? Like, it's crazy. I think that the evidence is what we need to focus on, and the evidence shows that his injuries are not consistent with a car accident. They're consistent with a beating, a brutal attack. I just hope that they get it right and let her go, because she's been through absolute hell. And to hear her talk, God, I was so just enamored by her, because she's so smart. She's so smart. She's so articulate. Like, she's a good woman. You can tell that she's not no dummy. She ain't no dummy. I think the worst decision she made was to date a cop and to be out drinking with his ass. You know, and that's another thing. They tried to hang her up to dry like she was some dirty whore that was just out here in the streets, just living the high life, drunk all the time. The media twisted it around like she was some, I don't know, some hooker that just wanted to drink and drug. And then you hear her talk and you can realize that she's smarter than the cops. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, this is why they hate her. I got you. This is why you tried to say that she was the problem. Because you guys are the problem. Y'all are projecting. You need to be looking at one of your own, because they done killed one of your own. It's crazy. She's very articulate, very smart, very respectable, professional. I don't believe it for a minute that she killed her boyfriend. I sure don't. I think that she was in shock, and she thought that she had hit him. You know, because most of us would. Think about if it was you or me and we dropped our boyfriends off at a friend's house, and then we come back the next morning looking for him. He's in the snow where we last saw him. Most people would assume that they accidentally ran over him, or backing out or pulling in, they had hit him or something. And that's what she was doing. She was questioning herself as to whether or not she had accidentally ran him over. But medical examination shows that this was not a car accident. So I don't know what John O'Keefe knew about Brian or about the sheriff's department, or what dirt he was about to reveal to God knows who. But in my opinion, there was more to this story that we still don't know, and we probably won't ever know, because the police department is going to make sure to bury that shit. They already have. They have her on trial for murder when they know that it was one of their own that killed him, allegedly. So they're willing to go to all lengths to cover this shit up, prosecuting an innocent woman without doing a proper investigation, and they haven't. Still to this day, they have not looked into Brian. Still to this day, they have not pulled him in for questioning, to my knowledge. I didn't see him testify. He should have been the main person on that stand, because that is the defense's defense. They're saying that he was killed inside of Brian's house by Brian, or whoever was at Brian's house, and the dog. I didn't see him testify. Y'all, I'm about to run for the evening. I'm gonna go get some food or something. I might have to make me something. Lord have mercy. I had a lot of schoolwork to do this morning because I didn't get to do it Monday night when it dropped at 5 p.m. So I did half of it last night, and then I woke up and did the other half. Tomorrow I want to try to work out, but I don't know. I just go through these moods. I really do, but it's okay. I need the rest days because I don't rest enough. I'm about to go make me something to eat and try not to run out of gas. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't get paid till the 21st, and I'm so stressed about everything. Can't do nothing about it. Can't do nothing about it. I did the best that I could. You know, it's so crazy. I think about almost every day how if I was still putting needles in my arms, I wouldn't be homeless right now. It's really a mind fuck because it's like, my life has always been like that, though. The better I do for myself, the worse things get. Like, it's crazy. It's kind of crazy how Satan will provide everything for you if you just destroy yourself for him. It's crazy. It really is. It's a mind fuck. I think about it all the time. I'm like, well, you wouldn't be homeless if you wouldn't decided to get clean. You wouldn't be homeless if you're still putting needles in your arms, but honestly, I would rather be clean, and that's what I continue to do, you know? I knew before I got clean that I wanted to be clean, and that's been over half a decade now. So, it's crazy to think, though, that I wouldn't be in this position if I wouldn't have never got clean. And that sucks. But I wanted to live. So I live. But anyways, I'm going to go. I hope you guys have a good day. I'm going to go try to take a load off. I need to do some reading for school. And, yeah, we'll talk tomorrow. I love you guys. And pray for me because God knows I need it. And I'm praying for y'all. Stay safe out there. Bye, y'all.